Well, greetings, dear friends. Welcome to this morning Sutta study group at Empty Cloud Monastery, from wherever you're calling in. Very good to see you. I'd like to offer a sutta today from the Samyutta Nikaya. The title of this sutta study is Why Are We Here? And this beautiful sutta, short sutta from the Buddha, explains very well how we find ourselves in this situation. So for those who'd like to follow it themselves with the text or with a text online, this is from the Discourses on Causation, Samyutta number 12. And there's a chapter called Kalara the Aristocrat, where the Buddha gives a teaching to this particular person. And there's a collection of teachings in this chapter, and this teaching is number 38. So it's Samyutta Nikaya 12:38. And the name of this discourse is Intention, Cetana Sutta. So I shall begin with homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. So here's the sutta for today. At Savatthi, mendicants, what you intend or plan and what you have underlying tendencies for become a support for the continuation of consciousness. When this support exists, consciousness becomes established. When consciousness is established and grows, there is rebirth into a new state of existence in the future. When there's rebirth into a new existence in the future, then future rebirth, old age and death come to be, as do sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. This is how this entire mass of suffering originates. So this is incredible, really. I mean, it's a concise summary of our entire situation, of the situation of all beings. Why are we here? We're here because of intention. We're here in a sense because we want to be here. There's something that wants to exist and that has to therefore go through the suffering that existence entails, the repetitive cycles. And the Buddha concisely pinpointed for us the cause of our being here, the cause of this continuation, is intentions and plans, what you intend or plan, and what you have also underlying tendencies towards. So these two facets of our experience. The Buddha talked about the asawa. My teacher Goenkaji called the asawa, these underlying causes of suffering, these underlying defilements. He called them sleeping volcanoes. So we have these tendencies, these inclinations sort of sitting under the surface or sort of smoking away. There's pressure there, there's energy there, but it's dormant. And then every now and then, boom, something will come up. And we can almost have the sense, there's some movement here, some inclination towards something. And it's a strong desire, or it may be some kind of hatred that comes into the mind, or confusion, delusion. So there are these underlying tendencies, and then on the surface, you could say, of our experience, there is our active thinking mind and our life that's unfolding before us. And how does it unfold before us? Through our intentionality, through our planning. So we make it happen, in short. And this isn't to say we make the body happen. And the Buddha talked about 4 different kinds of nutriment. You know, there's the body which receives food, and the food keeps the body going. So we have these bodies, but we have these bodies for deeper underlying reasons. So the other kinds of nutriment are contact, which gives rise to feelings. And we start to, you could say, play with contact, play with feelings through our lives. When we have agency, when we have the choice, we'll tend to seek pleasant feeling and move away from unpleasant feelings. So already we're moving into the realm of intentionality. And then other causes, other nutriments, other causes of our being here. There are 2 more. There is volition, this kind of intentionality, the kind of momentum that drives us, choices that drive us. And then the consciousness itself is a nutriment for itself. So consciousness is kind of self-perpetuating. And we can watch all of this playing out. And the beauty of this is that once we understand that there are these processes, that the nutriment is coming in, the food, the contact, the volition, the intention, and consciousness are all creating the next moment and the next and the next. And we have bodies, we need to take food, we need to look after these bodies. That part is to be carefully observed, to be carefully worked with. So that as we chant in the mealtime chants, we're not eating for fun or for pleasure, for beauty, for delight. We're not eating in order to overindulge. We're eating just to maintain the health of this body, to remove any unpleasant old feelings such as hunger that have arisen, and to not create any new unpleasant feelings through unintelligent eating or overeating. So we work with this nutriment of food, but these other nutriments, contact and our tendency to be swayed by pleasant and unpleasant, and the movements away from unpleasant and towards pleasant, and the volition and consciousness, these we need to really be willing, friends, to let go of plans and intentions, let go of, slowly but surely, let go of the underlying tendencies. How do we do that? We do that through mindfulness. We observe ourselves. We can start to see how, without mindfulness, we tend to be on automatic pilot. You know, people are living according to their wishes and desires, according to that which they don't want and like. People will be guided by these painful causes of future rebirth. So we want to step away from that and to observe the inclinations, observe the wishes and the likes and the dislikes arising and passing, and not fall into automatic pilot. You know, to actually be able to be wise is to be able to observe these tendencies, these inclinations, and to be willing to let them go. And it's a beautiful thing, isn't it, to see some kind of intentionality around something I want, say. I want to get it, I really want it. And to be with that feeling of desire. How does that manifest in the body? What is that feeling of leaning towards, and that feeling of unsatisfactory right now? This isn't okay. I need this other thing to be okay. The feeling of emptiness, not in a good way. The feeling of kind of like an empty hole that needs filling. You know, some kind of unbearable yearning. Can we be present for that? rather than grabbing what we want, can we feel the feeling of desire? And of course we can, and many of you know this. And then through sitting patiently and bearing that feeling and momentum, that push, this intentionality, we can notice how it has a life. So it lives for a while, it can sometimes build and build and build, and then it will start to decrescendo, it will start to die down. And eventually, of course, it will pass away, like everything changing. So we can have this beautiful experience of seeing desires arising and passing and staying steady, staying still, and freeing ourselves from this, what in this sutta the Buddha refers to as intentions and plans. What you intend or plan and what you have underlying tendencies towards, this is the support for continuation of consciousness. So we create anew every moment that we are intending, every moment that we are reaching to the future. We're reaching away from what is. We're seeking something other than reality. Every moment we argue in this way with the way it is. Every moment we lose ourselves in the defilements of wanting and not wanting, that confusion, then we're creating more consciousness. We're recreating again and again. And what does the Buddha say? The result, of course, is rebirth. The next moment of desire, the next push, the velocity just sort of keeps going. The engine keeps moving. And so also does rebirth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So it's a choice, it's a clear choice. And we have to fully, I guess, see the big picture in order to not be enticed by the pleasure of wanting. Actually, wanting is the pleasure, you know. Getting is quite pale in comparison. It pales in comparison to wanting. If you really look, if you really notice, when we're craving and desiring something, we really feel there's a sense of purpose and vitality, and, you know, I have a plan. And there's something very attractive to us about having a plan of any sort. But then look at what happens if we follow Mara, if we follow that delusion, and we're duped and we get into that current, and then, boom, you know, we make it happen. Yes, we get what we want. What happens then? What happens then is the letdown, isn't it? It's the anticlimax. It's the disillusionment. The having is never as good as the wanting. We just see for yourselves, you know, watch the mind and see how it's the having, it's the wanting, it's the wanting that is enticing, that is somehow attractive for us. The getting, we notice how quickly we lose that hit of pleasure, how short-lived it is. You get the thing you want and it's over already, you know. Then what? Then we start to want something else. And so it goes on. And so in this way, consciousness is recreated. The life is re-energized. The suffering is reconstituted over and over and over again. So going on. So the Buddha has outlined the problem, outlined the predicament that we find ourselves in. There is momentum here. There is a beingness here that is caused by intentionality. What to do? Fortunately, the Buddha continues to explain. Okay, if you don't intend or plan, but you still have underlying tendencies, this becomes a support for the continuation of consciousness. When this support exists, consciousness becomes established. When consciousness is established and grows, there is rebirth into a new state of existence in the future. And when there is rebirth into a new state of existence in the future, there comes along with that rebirth, old age, death, and sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So here we've stripped away, to a certain extent, this momentum, this push, this being energy, becoming energy. There's no intention and there's no planning. When you don't intend or plan, but there are still underlying tendencies. Okay, so this is the meditator, this is the practitioner, this is where we're at. Because at least for some periods of time, we're willing, we've made a kind of renunciation, we've decided, we've allowed ourselves to stop. So to sit and meditate is to come home to this present moment, isn't it? To be present for this body, sitting, breathing, and to start to turn that mindful attention to the mind itself, so we can start to notice from this perspective of body awareness, like an anchor for the mind. We can notice the stream of thoughts, the thinking process, this incredible flow that's completely impersonal. These are not our thoughts, but thoughts will come and go, the mind doing its thing. This part of the mind, this active kind of surface of the mind. And when we're meditating, we're allowing that to simply flow. We're not flowing with it. We're not in it. We're not identifying with it. And maybe we are sometimes. Maybe we do get caught up in whatever thoughts of past or future we're having. But from time to time, we can really sit steady, be still, and know this thinking process for what it is. Like a flow of suffering, a flow of Mara, a flow of delusion. And we don't even have to label it like that if that's not helpful for you, just to see it's a flow of energy, thought energy. And it's not me, it's not mine. I don't have to identify with this. I can observe this, I can watch this, like watching a movie. And the more we can experience this freedom from planning and intentionality, the more we can relax, the more we can recognize that it's good to let go of these things, at least for some of the time. And when we really do let go of intentions and plans, what we find is that life doesn't stop. We don't stop functioning. We don't stop traveling if we need to travel. We don't stop doing things. We just don't have the same relationship of holding on to those things. Things still happen, but we're not doing them. Things can happen in a more smooth and efficient way when we're out of the way, So we get to start noticing that, just to notice how the less I invest in my thinking and planning and wanting and being on that level, the more things go smoothly, things go well. The Dhamma can manifest, the Dhamma can flow, and I can just recline and relax in that. So this is the place in this second aspect of this teaching from the Buddha. This is the place. If you don't intend or plan, but still there are underlying tendencies, then still the Buddha's telling us consciousness is being created anew. There's more birth happening. There's more energy, momentum behind samsara, behind becoming, behind manifesting. There's still agitation, there's still suffering. So the next and final paragraph goes like this. If you don't intend or plan, you don't have underlying tendencies either. Then this does not become a support for the continuation of consciousness. With no support, consciousness is not established. When consciousness is not established and doesn't grow, then there's no rebirth into a new state of existence in the future. And when there's no rebirth into a new state of existence in the future, then there is no old age, no death, no sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So there we have it, the entire path right there for us. When we practice, we start to let go of intentionality. We start to step back from the hugely stressful push and pull of life, and we start to observe. And as we observe these inclinations and plans, rather than making new ones, so we've stopped making new or investing in new futures, new plans, new ideas, new anything at all. We're resting back, and then what happens? The old intentionality, the past karma, you could say, the sleeping volcanoes, you could say, the asava, they start to rise up, and we have the chance to investigate this past karma. We have the chance to investigate the forces that have led to our being here. The causes why we're here start to reveal themselves. And what we can begin to recognize is that these causes, these kind of pushes, these pulls, these energies are sheer suffering. And as we start to recognize the quality of unsatisfactoriness, the painfulness around these energies, we get stronger and firmer in our resolve to be present for them, to not act upon them, to observe and to learn and to grow in wisdom and to grow in peace, isn't it, friends? To grow in peace, to relax. And so slowly but surely in our walking the spiritual path, we're beginning to recognize that we're not driving this vehicle. The vehicle's moving, and we can choose whether we move with it, whether we press the accelerator and rev it up, or whether we take our foot off the accelerator, sit back and trust, and allow it to slow down. And we come to a point one day, inevitably, when the vehicle stops. And we know that moment. And the profound rightness of that, the beauty of that, the peace of that, ineffable peace, unshakable peace. And when the vehicle has stopped, then something else can happen, which is that within us all of the past causes, past propelling movements and energies can start to arise, and we stay steady. Don't drive anymore. Stay sitting back, resting and relaxing, and just allow the full force of all these energies, the underlying tendencies, to have their day, to have their say, to be heard, to be felt, to be seen. And eventually, time comes when it's like the candle burning. You know, the fuel of the underlying tendencies is like the candle wax. The flame is our mindfulness. And the flame, you could also say, is this inevitable motion of being. And it's burning, and we're not adding any fuel. We're not making any more candles. We're just letting this one burn down. And in many ways this simile is helpful, because it's like the body's burning down, the body's naturally aging, and it slowly comes to a halt and it's over. And in the same way, even as that is happening, when we're present for our lives, when we're actually truly alive and aware and awake, being the Buddha watching and seeing the Dhamma, then we can see the mind also burning, until eventually there's no more underlying asava, there's no more wax, there's no more fuel, and so the flame can go out. And this is the indescribable state of nibbana, of cooling, that is, impossible to revert from this state into any form of delusion or suffering whatsoever, because there's just no fuel left. The flame has gone out. And so this sutta is pointing the way for us and pinpointing, let's focus, friends, on our intentionality, on our planning. Let's focus on all the ways in which we're creating life anew. We're creating suffering anew. We're stepping into samsara and getting caught up and getting stressed and getting speedy. Let's just observe when these things happen, and let's remember to meditate as much as you can in order to slow it down, to begin to turn the attention to seeing what's actually going on, to be able to renounce, let go of planning and intentionality and all the identification with them, and then to start to see the underlying tendencies emerging. In a quiet mind, like a still forest pool, these tendencies can start to reveal themselves like animals coming to drink the water. Can we watch? We have to be very still. We have to be very silent within to see these tendencies and just allow them to come up, to exert their energies, not to be fooled by those energies, to stay steady with those energies, and then to see them passing away. Peace, peace. Slowly but surely we deepen our peacefulness, and in the end there's nothing but peace. A1. So thank you very much for listening, those who are here live. I'm going to have a little look to see if there's any questions or comments that I can share with the others. Just bear with me a sec. Yeah, hi Poonam and Rajith and Saw and Sud and Yankee Apple. Thank you for joining me. And Bhumika, Jayantha, Karuna, Manal, Douglas, Kit, Spook, John and Richard. Okay, friends. Okay, we have one question from Sud. Thank you, Sud. Do you think a mantra would help to bring the mind to the present moment, since it's so difficult to completely stop the constant desiring, thinking, emoting mind? Yeah, thank you, Sud. That's a great suggestion. Anything that helps, anything that helps. It's very difficult, isn't it, to just stop. Well nigh impossible to just stop, but we can stop in the sense of sitting, making time for meditation practice. Then we have the opportunity to see just how fast we're running, how fast the engine's moving. And that's great. That's great, because to see that is we're halfway there already. So to then be working with a mind that's racing, that's scattered, that's maybe distracted, that's speeding. So, okay, this is the challenge then. Can I stay steady? A mantra is really good, yes. I think many people use mantras. I've also used mantras, and I've also used, and sometimes use mala beads and combine the two. So this is really helpful as well. So there's a tactile work that's happening and something to observe, the fingers on the beads, on the mala beads. As I say the mantra, one bead per mantra or whatever. So there's the sound, there's the phrase that's repeating, there's the touch of the beads, both or just one of those, to help the mind just to come and settle, just to land, to arrive. So anything that helps. Touch is good. Some teachers encourage some kind of movement, just some simple movement, the arm or whatever. Just to have some motion there that's almost like mirroring the racing mind and somehow relieving that, in the sense that one can move the attention from the racing mind to the body that's moving. To have a body that's completely still is sometimes just too much of a disconnect. It's too dissonant with the racing mind. So just to move the body. Also, walking meditation can be very helpful when the mind is racing, when we're full of thoughts, we're really caught up in emotion and thinking. Then walking meditation, it's like we can literally walk it out. And when we do walking meditation, of course, the encouragement is to bring the attention to the feet, bring the attention to the body moving again. So all of these ways to work with a restless, racing mind. And slowly, I would say, Sud, we can use the mantra, use some kind of touch or movement to help the mind to focus on that. Something really gross, really overt, really obvious, super helpful. But when the mind starts to settle and become more focused, more peaceful, a little bit less speedy, then we can start to allow the object of meditation to become more subtle. And you'll know when the right time is to do that. It's when you've been able to recite the mantra for many minutes without any break, without any distraction. Then it's almost like natural, actually, that the mantra will fall away at some point. But if it doesn't naturally fall away, you can experiment with, okay, I'll just see if I can just let that go as well now, and just be with the breath and be with the body sitting. So yeah, in short, mantra's great. Anything and everything that helps us to come home to the body, to be present for this moment, and to let go of all the other cares and concerns. Sometimes people think, I let go of the project I'm supposed to be working on, or this obsession in my mind that I've got to sort this thing out. If I sit and meditate and let go of that, I'm going to regress. I'm going to have to come back to it later. It's like going on holiday from work, and if you're not covered adequately by others, your duties, you come back after the holiday and it's hell realm, because all the work that you didn't do in the time you've been resting has just simply piled up. This kind of worry can happen for us. We can feel, well, if I leave my obsessions aside for this meditation period, then it's just going to be so much worse when I come back, when I, get back to work, as it were. But it's not so. Many of us will recognize this. Actually, it's the opposite is the case. It's fascinating to me that I can be really caught up in some issue or other and feel it's life and death. This has to be thought about, has to be worked on, has to be sorted out in some way. Then go and meditate and put it aside. Trust, friends. It's always good to put such things aside and sit and meditate, focusing intently on the body, the breath, or the mantra. And then after half an hour, however long it is, we get up, and that issue was not present for us to a great degree, wasn't present for us, at least in moments. What's happened to that issue? It's fascinating to me that we can observe quite often. It's as if you have a very tangled hairdo. Your hair's all tangled and knotted, and you've been combing it for the last hour. You've been combing it through. You've been untying and loosening all the tangles, and you've got it to a point where it's nice and smooth, combed through, orderly. This is what happens for us when we allow ourselves to meditate and really put aside all the obsessions of the mind, leave them alone, come to the body and trust that everything else has no place in this moment. Just the body breathing, just whatever thoughts arise and pass in this moment. Let them flow, leave them alone. When we can do this, what we recognize is all those things we thought of as so important actually have lost a bit of that importance. They have sometimes even sorted themselves out. Sometimes the conundrum is no longer a conundrum. It's clarity. We know what to do. We understand. So in short, our meditation gives our bodies and minds a chance to relax. And when they have that chance to relax, they work so much better. The mind will work better on all levels. more efficiently, with more clarity, with more calm. And this is so what's needed. So let's not be afraid to dive into our meditation, dive into the mantra, into the body awareness, give it all our attention, knowing that whatever else feels important will be attended to much more thoroughly, kindly, and efficiently through not attending to it. So thank you, Sud. And let's see if there's any other points, questions. Oops. Hello, Gianna. Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Richard. We have a question here from Seema. Hello, Seema. She says, how do we reconcile thoughts that come in regretting past actions? Thank you for this, because often we can be kind of tormented by past regrets, and these kinds of thoughts, these kinds of issues will tend to come up and feel important for us to attend to. What I would say is that it's really good to experience regret, and it's really good to work through it and let go of regret, not to hold on to it. So how do we do that? How do we work through thoughts of regret or remorse that come up? I would say, again, it's really very consistent with what I was just saying. The best way forward is often to avoid, to not kind of roll around in those regrets, not to think them through, but to feel them through. So a thought of regret and memory might come up into the mind. When that happens, allow the attention to come back again to the body. Allow the mind to release that thought, to let go of that thought and feel what it's like. So where there's regret, there will be some kind of uncomfortable feeling mirroring that thought in the mind, in the body. So there'll be some kind of embarrassment or shame, some heat, some tension, some holding, whatever it is. Get used to, get good at redirecting the attention from thinking to feeling, because when we come to this aspect of our experience that is feeling, it's a very true, very sincere experience. This is truly how it is for us. Thoughts can be quite deceptive. Memories can be exaggerated. Memories can be distorted. But the feeling we have in this moment is genuine, it's true, and it's Dhamma for us. So to be able to just keep coming back to the body and feel it through. And when we can do this with any kind of regret, any kind of difficult thoughts, any kind of confusion whatsoever, if we can feel it through, then what will happen is we'll learn from that. We'll extract what's useful. The sense of the painful feeling of some kind of past regrettable action is a big ouch for us. Ow! When you feel it fully, then there's very little chance that one is going to move in that direction again. It's like being told to keep your hand out of the fire. We can tell ourselves endlessly what we should do and shouldn't do, but to actually put your hand in the fire and feel the burn is an instant teaching that you do not forget. You're not going to do that again. That hurts. That hurts like hell. Well, it's the same with regret and remorse and any other kinds of difficult feelings and thoughts that arise for us. When the thought comes, feel what it's like. How painful is that? Feel the pain of remorse. And when we can feel the pain of remorse, it's done its good work. We've done the good work, and we can then observe it pass away. And in this way, we can become free from remorse, free from regret. There's no reason to carry them around. They don't serve any purpose in that way. The purpose they serve is in showing us how painful unfortunate actions, thoughts, or speech can be. and how that pain will linger for us until we have recognized this truth. And once we've recognized the truth of the pain of unwholesome actions, thoughts or speech, then we can move on freely and with a sense of well-being, a sense of self-respect and self-regard. Thank you for that, Seema. And see if there's anything else I can help address. Hello, Louisa. And Anonymous. The sutta I was reading from Anonymous was Samyutta Nikaya, and it's number 1238. It's on intention. Samyutta 1238. Thank you, Kit. Niranjan. Okay, from Seema. Thank you for that. In meditation, it's easy to become comfortable with the pain of remorse, as you said. But if the regret is something like having gotten married or having had kids, and you have to interact with these people on a regular basis, things become really difficult on a practical basis. Any thoughts or recommendations on this? Yes, thank you, Seema. That's a great example. So here we have a cause of regret that is with us in the form of, people that we live with and interact with every day. This is really important to address and to consider. So thank you. There may be many of us who have similar experiences and are living in similar situations, right? So now we have the same work to do. Okay, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to keep practicing. I'm going to practice every day. And when I sit, there it is. I wish it had been done differently. I wish the situation had not come about. I wish that different choices had been made in the past, something along those lines. All of these regretful thoughts and feelings. And again, what can we do? We can feel what we feel and trust the process of day by day, just chipping away, wearing away, allowing whatever's present for us to manifest and to make peace with it through observing, through letting go, through sitting steadily, making the time to be present for how it feels to be in this situation. And, it's interesting. Some things are like chronic pain, for instance. We can be pretty sure that we're going to have this for the duration of this lifespan. We can't be 100% sure of that actually, but the sense is with chronic pain, it's chronic. It is predictably present. Okay, so this requires great patience. We get the chance to develop incredible parami, incredible degrees of virtue, qualities, strengths that we wouldn't otherwise develop. And oftentimes, isn't it, when we're dealing with a painful situation that is long-lasting, we become very compassionate towards ourselves as we're stepping through this suffering day after day with great nobility, with great patience, with great kindness, with awareness, and also compassion for all those around us, who we might start to notice are often similarly afflicted. So many of us have life situations that are not what we would ideally have chosen for ourselves or that we would want at this point. Of course, we chose them at some point in the past, but maybe we were mistaken. Maybe we were not seeing the full picture. Maybe we were made unfortunate choices, and maybe not. The important thing is this is where we are now, with life choices or with some kind of painful situation. And what we can do now is to work with how it is right now. And we can do this. We can do this. And I really trust, I know actually, that when we're able to be steady, even in the most difficult of circumstances, and what feels like the most entrenched, permanent, lasting, long-lasting situations that are difficult for us, we can be very sure of two things. If we're practicing or not, the situation will change. And if we are practicing, then we will change within the situation. So we can change our attitude. And we really can. And it's not like we have to force ourselves to do that. No, it's through observing the way it is now and the suffering that's present now that we will work with that suffering. That suffering can arise and pass, arise and pass. It is diminishing steadily, slowly but surely when we practice, because the mind will always incline towards happiness. Give it a chance and it will incline towards happiness. To meditate is to give the mind that chance and it will incline towards happiness. And so the suffering will be gradually, slowly, maybe imperceptibly, but inexorably diminishing. And, the attitude towards those people that we live with, say in an unhappy marriage, unhappy family situation, our attitude towards those we live with will change, will slowly change. Will become kinder, will become softer, will become more tolerant, maybe even loving, and this is something to work towards, because this is what we've got. Whoever we have in our lives, we have the choice. Do we want to consider them as friends and beloveds, or do we want them to be other? Where does the happiness lie? The happiness lies in seeing the beloved in all beings. And we can do this. We can do the good work, of letting go of anything that's not seeing in that way, anything that's not manifesting in that way. And in our practice, of course, isn't it the case that most of us are dealing with negativity, hatred and aversion so much. So just to let it come and go, just to be willing to open to the negativity, to allow ourselves to feel, how is that really? How does it really feel when I think like that, or when I have these memories or these thoughts? How does it feel? And noticing that in our practice, negativity, aversion, the defilements in short, will gradually, for sure, diminish. And what's left is this kindness regarding others with a kindly eye, opening the heart to others and seeking the beloved in all beings and cherishing all beings. And this is surely the way that you're moving, my friend, and all of us. So thank you very much, Seema, for this great example. And I really wish you well, trusting that you have the path. Okay, I've managed to click on spook by mistake. Just see if there's anyone else first. No, that's great. Okay, comment from Spook. Thank you, Spook. That is so helpful. Living with a regrettable person, because we had kids too soon, allows me to develop myself into a very virtuous person. Sadhu. That's beautiful. There's a voice of someone who's worked through, and come to a place of acceptance. This is so beautiful, Spook. For all of us, we can't make things happen. We can't put ourselves in a position of acceptance by sheer willpower, or because we think we should, or we kind of know we should accept the way things are. We can't make it happen. And that's fine. What we can do is work with this moment and be willing to keep facing the dukkha, just be with the suffering, and slowly, as I say, slowly but surely, this sense of embracing the way it is, really making peace with the way it is. And in the end, coming around to this attitude of, yeah, of course, this is the way it is. This is, of course, the right way. This is how it should be. This sense of opening to the reality of the moment. We come around to this. And it's a beautiful process. And literally, friends, it's really amazing how our very memories can change. You know, memory is such a slippery thing. It's such a fluid thing. It seems real, but our memories, of course, are coloured by so much perception, emotion, distortion. We can't trust our memories, but we can respect them. This is what I remember. I can respect it even while I have a great big question mark next to it. So look, even our memories can change. When we practice and the heart softens and opens and the metta, the loving kindness, has a chance to manifest, the natural loving quality of our nature, of our clear mind, the compassion, the kindness, the calm start to be able to reveal themselves and to manifest more fully. You know, even our memories can change. And what I remembered as a terrible experience becomes like, oh, that was just the best thing. It just so needed to happen for me in order to move me forward into this situation in this way. It may be that situations change. It may be that the situation is exactly the same. And the same past, of course, happened, but our attitude towards it becomes something bright, grateful. I'm grateful for the way things have turned out. I'm grateful for the way things happened. I'm so glad, because without that, I wouldn't be able to have practiced in this way and learned so much from these memories, from these past experiences, and so forth. So look, even our entire outlook can change, our attitude towards others, our attitude towards ourselves, which is actually what we're talking about all the time here, can change. It can change, it can soften, and we can start to fully appreciate the goodness of this moment. This is a path of joy, and you can be very sure that keep practicing with the most difficult, painful situations, and they'll come to in time, a place of acceptance and well-being. So I really thank you, Spook, for pointing to that beautiful reality of difficult situation and what's happened for me. I've become so much more of a virtuous person. I'm so glad. Sadhu, Spook. Okay, that's all good. I think that's it for now. No more questions. Thank you all very much for being here, and to all those who view this teaching later, wish all of you every blessing on the path of practice. Thank you for your practice.